Hello, fellow patriots. I want to spend just a minute sharing with you some of my thoughts about what's happening right now here in the United States. I believe that the globalists are right now engaged in two massive efforts to go ahead and complete the destruction of the United States as we know it today. They realize that if they don't get the job done completely now, they will be set back decades in their efforts. So, right now, there are two main pushes being uh, financed and organized by the globalists. One push is in the political arena. During the 2018 midterm elections, I believe the Democratic National Party is a part of the globalist movement, had massive voter fraud set up in all 40, if not more, congressional districts. All 40 of those districts that were uncontested, where the Republicans did not stay in office to defend and run for re-election. The Democrats set up processes and systems whereby they could end up with the number of votes they needed to win those districts. They did this knowing that all attention was going to be on Florida because Florida has a record of voter problems. Now, I don't know if the Democrat National Committee is the one that perpetrated all of the things that went on down there in Florida in those two precincts or those two voting areas, but counties or whatever they were. I will assure you this: at least the director of elections that was in that one place down there that just kept finding new votes, you saw the news. Even the mainstream news covered some of the details that were going on down there. Anyone who paid any attention to what happened there knows that there was voter fraud happening in Florida. Now, the Democrats knew that the attention was going to be on Florida. So while Florida was doing their recount, reshuffle, refind, whatever games they were playing down there, behind everybody's back, congressional district after congressional district out west, California, Arizona, out in there and all, went blue. Not on election night, but went blue on recounts and things. That's where the fraud can enter in when people on your side are running the election offices. That's where the fraud comes in. And you'll never convince me it didn't happen in many races out there. Now, the second prong of the globalist effort to destroy the United States is to overwhelm and destroy their immigration system so we no longer have a border or a citizenship country anymore. We have an open country that just anybody that can get in and put their 2 feet on the country can start running the place and have a vote, etc., etc., etc. Once again, don't doubt me. If you've been looking and understand at all what's going on down there, you realize that is their intention. You also have to realize that you cannot move thousands and thousands, tens of thousands even, of people over a 1,000-mile journey, supposedly walking most of the way, etc., etc. You cannot move them, feed them, have adequate sanitary conditions for them. You can't do it without a whole lot of pre-planning and money. The globalist George Soros and his globalist buddies around the world, and even here in the United States, a lot of the chief executives of some of our wealthiest companies want to see a globalist economy because it'll make them richer. Now, they're willing to pay for this caravan. They're willing to pay for all those buses that were hauling those people up the road instead of them having to walk up here like the mainstream media kind of wanted you to think they were doing the whole way. But if really all they wanted was to get in the United States for a better life, wouldn't they have tried to get into the United States as soon as they got there on the Texas border? No, there was some pre-planning going on. There was some thought going on, because all of a sudden these folks ended up on buses and they went hundreds of extra miles to the west so they could be on the border of the Ninth Judicial Circuit, where there is a friendly United States federal court circuit to immigrants and to destroying the United States, the Ninth Circuit. Having said that, there's one more attack on the United States. It may or may not be related to the globalists, but it doesn't matter, because it is a separate attack and it does have its own major proponent. And I'm talking about the intrusion of Islam into our way of life here in the United States. They've already done it over in Europe, in country after country after country. They've had a plan for decades and decades, if not longer. They haven't tried to hide it. It hasn't been a secret. It's just not been publicized and hasn't been mentioned by most of our media here in this country. Their plan is to get into a country, outbirth, have more babies than the people that live in that country, eventually outnumber them, start gaining political position and political power through the ballots, etc., and take over the country. Don't take my word for it. Do a little bit of digging and searching. That plan has been out there for decades, if not longer. And it's been successful in Europe. Now, the difference between Europe and the United States, by the way, the United States is the last impediment for both the globalist ambitions and the Muslims' ambitions. It's the United States that stands in their way of global domination. The countries over in Europe, it's really too late for them. You know, those countries don't have Second Amendments. They don't have an armed population that has a chance of making an uprising and conquering the Muslim intruders that have taken over their countries. We might have to go to that step here in the United States, but I hope not. I hope there's enough of you who realize what's happening. You can see the handwriting on the wall, and you'll step up with us to stop it while it can still be stopped without a war. Now I'm asking you to join with Sound the Alarm Brigade. Go to www.ourstab.com. Now, what makes Sound the Alarm Brigade different? This. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of groups out there that have good ideas about what needs to be done to put the brakes on and to keep Sharia law from taking over our country. However, all of those plans fail in one area. They all depend on the lawmakers liking their plan so much they force it through. The lawmakers make it happen. Well, I've got news for you, America. The lawmakers are not about to even look at those plans seriously unless we, the people, force them to look at all of those various suggestions. And no other group, to my knowledge, is focused on that one thing, forcing our politicians to do their job. That's what STAB's purpose is. Join with us. At least put your name on the list so our numbers grow. Many of you will be willing to help us do rallies and attend meetings, etc. things, or other activities that we pick up and that we formulate to do to help force our politicians to do their job. Join with us. Let's stop this before we have to pick up arms and have a war to stop it. Thank you.